I'm irritated, and this has been bothering me for years now, and I'm just... Good morning, bird. That's not what's irritating me. Birds don't irritate me. Well, unless they poop on my head or something, but no. What irritates me is the prevalence of food placement in places where people are vulnerable, and that will result in health problems. Say, for example, you go into a dentist's office, and when you're done, there is sugary lollipops sitting on the counter for your kids to take home. What do you think that does to your kids? It encourages the consumption of food. Well, not even food. I can't really call it food, but the consumption of candy that contains large quantities of sugar that are not only bad for health, but bad for the mouth, for the teeth, for the gums. Why would dentists do that? Well, it's obvious, because they want your kids to have to come back because of tooth decay, to get more money. So if you're at a dentist's office and they're offering candy to your children, ask them, is that sugar-free? And if it's not, you should say, don't you feel at least a little bit guilty about offering sugary candy to children? Especially because that's going to cause tooth decay and periodontal gum disease, gingivitis, not to mention diabetes. Or say you go to a doctor's office or an urgent care or an emergency room or a hospital, and you're in there and you're looking for something to eat, and all you can find are energy drinks and soda and junk food and fast food and processed foods. You can't find things that are actually good for health. What does that tell you about the motives of that doctor's office, of that urgent care, of that emergency room, of that hospital? If I were you, I would go and I would say, I want to talk to the manager now. And when the manager comes out, I would say, look, I don't know what you think you're doing, but I see what you're doing. You're offering only crap food to your patients, which means they'll have to come back again because you're poisoning them with this garbage. This junk food should not be here. This fast food should not be here. You are a medical facility. This is a medical facility. And the fact that you're offering food that's going to make people sick demonstrates a lack of concern for your patients, except for their getting their money. Now, what about if you go to your kid's school and you look at the menu, or you ask your kids what's available, and you ask them, well, what do you normally eat? What are you going to do when the kids say, well, every day there's pizza available, and we can usually get a hot dog or a hamburger and French fries, and so basically your kid is describing the menu at a fast food restaurant. Now, everybody who's been paying attention knows that fast food is bad for health, that food that has been deep fried repeatedly, like French fries, is not only bad for health, it's very bad for health because the more you reuse the oil, the more trans fats there are going to be in that food. Even if it's the first time you use that oil, fast food restaurants almost never are willing to buy unrefined oil. Unrefined oil would not at least start with trans fats, but trans fats would be introduced. And depending on the type of oil, it would be less likely to result in it being transformed into something that contains trans fats. But no, that's not what they do. They buy refined oil, and they usually buy the cheap stuff. So it probably is corn or soy, and those oils do not stand up well to repeated usage, and so develop trans fats. So and this is a known fact that when you buy processed foods, like fast food or junk food, like chips and stuff like that, It is a known fact that those products contain trans fats. It's just that the way the FDA and USDA look at things, they're like, well, you do have to mark that there are trans fats here on your product. But if the serving size, when measured, demonstrates that there's less than, say, 500 milligrams of trans fats, then you don't have to put that on the label. Even though those trans fats are there, it's okay. We'll let you pretend that there are no trans fats in your product. Now, one of two things should be happening. Number one is that the government requires proper labeling. There should be no such thing as lactose-free when it's low lactose. There should be no such thing as no trans fats when there are trans fats. But the government is trying to help industries and trying to help to lie to you. The government is aiding and abetting criminal behavior on the part of industries that are selling foods that are bad for health, and this is concealed by providing minimums under which it's not necessary to report what's in there, and also to provide serving sizes that are so small that you don't get an actual picture of what you're getting. Because you're looking at that serving size and you're thinking, wow, great, I don't have to worry, this is great for me. But when you actually look at the amount you eat and the fact that even the amount that you're eating is not reported as a serving size, therefore you don't know about the hidden things in there like trans fats, you're being misled, you're being lied to, and the government is complicit. Yes, the federal government, our great and wonderful government that would never do anything wrong because this is the land of the free and the home of the brave. Guess what? They do it all the time. How do we know this? Well, a year or two ago, I got a bag lunch for kids that was prepared based on government regulations. And when I looked at it, it was mostly simple sugars. And I was flabbergasted. It was a horribly unbalanced snack food diet. And it was teaching children, it's okay to eat this. The government says it's okay, so it must be okay. And then you go back to the question of, what are your kids being offered at school? And if every day there's junk food on the menu and fast food on the menu, when you take them to a restaurant, do they order the salad with, say, a vinaigrette? Or do they order the chicken sandwich with breading and mayonnaise and no vegetables and French fries that have been deep fried or chips? What do you think your kids are going to choose if they're given a choice between the crap, fast food, junk food, and heavily processed foods and the stuff that's actually good for them? And if you don't know how to eat right and you're eating the same kind of crap at home, they're definitely not going to be making the right choices. When I was a kid, I often heard that for some kids, the only good meal they got was when they went to school. And that was true, because when I was a kid, at the schools I went to anyways, the food was generally fairly good for health. Although I cannot say how good, because I can't say if it was pre-processed food that they just warmed up at the cafeteria at school, or if they made it fresh at the cafeteria. Now, if it was pre-processed, that means there's going to be too much sodium in it. And so you're starting your child early in life on the path of blood vessel destruction, which can lead to arteriosclerosis, atherosclerosis, hypertension, stroke, and so on and so forth. So, if you don't know how to eat right, and your kids are going to school not having learned from you how to eat right because you don't know how, and they see the same crap that you're serving at home, and the same crap that they'll buy at a restaurant, they're going to buy the same crap. Especially if they see all their friends eating it and the teachers eating it. Most of them are just going to say, oh, well, that's what everybody else is eating, and I like the way it tastes. They're not going to understand that they're killing themselves starting at a young age, that they're setting themselves up for a life of medical problems because of dietary choices. And then, God forbid, you should actually try to find out the truth about what to eat. Because when you go online, it is baffling. When I found out that I had not just hypertension, not just palpitations and chest pains, but I also had atherosclerosis, also known as artery plaque, I had a fairly good understanding of health and diet and nutrition because I've been interested in it since the 90s when my uncle died of bad nutrition and my dad had to have an open heart surgery. And even before that, I was interested. I got off of boxed food and stuff. I started doing my own cooking. Didn't necessarily always do a good job because I was too lazy to follow a recipe and do food planning and all that grocery stuff. It was just more than I was willing to do. But I would make food and I would eat it, and I would eat it. Sometimes I'd enjoy it, sometimes I wouldn't enjoy it, and most of the time it was okay. So in 2022, when I discovered I had all these other problems that had been undiagnosed for the most part, but primarily the atherosclerosis was undiagnosed, and it would have remained undiagnosed until my death. Because when they send you to do a stress test cannot diagnose plaque in the arteries around your heart unless it's really severe. Why? Because a stress test is a heart function test. It is not a test that is designed to detect a buildup of plaque. But getting back to the food thing, it took me, I started researching and I became very confused because what I was seeing wasn't just a mishmash of things, but there were direct conflicts. There were things that were being said that were in direct conflict to what I understood, what I had heard from my doctor, what I had heard from other sources. And so I had to say, okay, maybe the sources I've learned from so far are all wrong. Maybe Nina Teicholz is right in that we should be eating lots of beef. Maybe Gary Taubes is right, and it's safe to eat the things that Gary is saying is safe to eat. Maybe Dr. Diamond is right. Maybe Ken Berry is right. Dr. Ken Berry is right. Maybe Dr. Gundry is right. Maybe all these other doctors are right, and the other doctors like Dr. Barnard and Dr. Geiger and all these other doctors who people thought were right were wrong. Maybe Ansel Keys really was a horrible human being and lied to us. So I did a lot of research, and it was not easy. And I understand that for many people it's not easy to do what I did because you may not have gotten the same quality of education. You may not have been able to learn about analysis and research and looking at least the abstract of research papers and trying to determine whether that research paper is even valid or not at a very basic level. And I can't do advanced evaluation of research papers because it's complicated. But I can do a basic understanding. I can look for conflict of interest. I can look for, was this research paid for by an industry that has a vested interest in it looking good? Was this research done on humans, or was it done on rodents, or maybe grasshoppers? Because the farther away it is from humans, the less likely it is to be valid. Was it done on a large group or a small group? Was it done on a short-term basis or a long-term basis? And were there any things that were used in the research that might have caused conflicting results? And so on and so forth. So it took me months and months. I developed my own method of diet. I developed actually 2 different diet methods. one prior to all that research, one during that research. And, I learned that what I needed to learn ultimately, but it was hard because there are so many people out there who are shilling for the industries. There are so many people out there who are focusing on anecdotes. Even doctors and scientists are focusing on anecdotal evidence and saying, this is good for everyone, when there's no proof of that. There are so many people out there who are lying because they want to sell you their supplements. And there are so many people out there who are misinformed and are passing on false information. That it's hard for you as a parent to protect your children and yourself from bad food choices. So if your child is going to school and every day is being offered junk food and fast food, you should be protesting. And when and I did. I went to my school district and I spoke to the person in charge of those nutritional decisions, and her response was, well, the food that we're serving meets the guidelines from the FDA. You respond by saying, BS. Just because it meets the guidelines doesn't mean it's not deadly. There's a difference between meeting the guidelines and actually being good for health. And this really angers me because our children are being taught from a young age in school, in doctors' offices, in hospitals, in dentists' offices, and everywhere else that bad food is good and good food is bad. It's being turned on its head. Now, I'm fortunate that I grew up in a household, and I'm old enough, where we were fed lots of homemade meals. Not out of boxes. My mom cooked from recipes. She didn't always find the right recipes, so sometimes it wasn't very enjoyable, but it was home cooking. Legitimate, not out of boxes and cans and bags and stuff. Home cooking. So I was exposed to a lot of different kinds of foods, and I was fortunate enough to pursue education that helped me to be able to research and analyze, but not everybody can. So if you see that your children every day are eating fast food, junk food, and other highly processed foods at school, and that it is being offered to them every day, and no effort is being made by the school to make sure they're eating right by restricting the availability of junk food and fast food and insisting that they eat other things instead, like when I was a kid. And I know this was not a universal experience because I looked at what the nutritional offerings were at the average school. And so I know that a lot of schools were serving garbage and have been doing that for a very long time because of industry influence. And when I say industry influence, I mean the companies that sell the stuff that's killing us, that sends us to the doctors and makes the healthcare industry richer, but not the doctors, because the doctors are being pressured to spend 5, 10, 15 minutes with you instead of the amount of time that is necessary to properly evaluate and diagnose and prescribe what you need in terms of therapy or proper diet. And most doctors don't know squat about nutrition anyways. They don't know squat about diet either. And with many insurance companies, it's very hard to get to see a nutritionist or a dietitian because they put restrictions. And they generally say, you're going to have to go to a hospital to do that. And then they put in restrictions to make it hard to go to a hospital to do that. So, if you're at a doctor's office, a dentist's office, an ER, or a hospital, and they're offering junk food, complain to the management. And if you're at school, call up the board of education, call up the school board, call up the principal's office, call up the nutritionist and say, I don't want what you're serving our kids. You need to be teaching them how to eat right, not teaching them how to die young and sick. This is disgusting. It's a sellout by our governments, by our politicians, by our schools, for the sake of companies like Coca-Cola and Pepsi getting rich. Companies that are in healthcare getting rich. It's just unacceptable. And anybody who's working in this industry should be ashamed of themselves. If they are complicit, if they are actively working to promote crap foods in schools and medical establishments, you should be ashamed of yourselves. Go work at McDonald's and eat their food. And we'll talk in 20 years when you've got diabetes and heart disease and stuff like that. And I'll say, you got what you deserved, you jerk. Because if you're doing this on purpose and you know it's wrong, you deserve what you get. You deserve what you're dishing out and nothing more. Fight for your children's health. Fight for your health. Learn about diet and nutrition. If you don't know how to do that, if you need help, I have videos on my channel that can help. I'm not selling anything. I'm just offering information from what I've learned. Watch Plant Chompers, watch Nutrition Made Simple, watch Zoe Science and Nutrition, watch the other channels out there that are designed to teach you. Avoid many of those doctors and so-called experts like Nina Teichholz and Gary Taubes, who Dr. Diamond, Dr. Gundry, Dr. Extenberg, and all these other people who have got an agenda. Dr. Berry, they're selling products. They're misleading people for one reason or another. Be careful, and remember, if you want to eat right, if it comes out of a box, it's most likely not good for your health. If it comes out of a can, it's most likely not good for your health. It's going to either be high in sugar or high in salt. If it is something that is in the produce section, it's most likely good for your health. If it is something that's in its original form or as close as possible to the original form, like applesauce instead of apples, it's probably good for your health as long as they're not adding sugar and salt and stuff. If you're buying vegetables and you can't buy fresh because they go bad before you can use them, it's a major problem because a lot of people, including myself, I forget that I've got vegetables, and then they sit there and they get so old that by the time I eat them, a lot of the nutritional value is gone. Either you have to go every day and buy fresh food and use it, or buy frozen. And make sure they're not adding salt or sugar or anything else to the product. And if you compare it and you're like, wow, this is super sweet, and it tastes like it's got sugar in it, they very well may have grown the plant in sugar water, which is the same as you might as well buy candied carrot or whatever. It's really easy. Stay away from the stuff in boxes and cans. Buy fresh food. Buy frozen vegetables. Buy frozen fruits. It may be a little bit more expensive, but I'll tell you what I've learned. I have learned that despite the claims of many, many people that it's cheaper to buy the processed stuff, it's more expensive to buy the fresh fruits and vegetables. No, it's not. It absolutely is not. Short term, it is. Every time I go to the store and I buy fresh produce, I spend less money than when I buy the processed stuff. It's short term, cheaper to buy fresh and cook it yourself. You don't have to make fancy meals. You boil your vegetables, you bake your bread yourself. Buy yeast bread, not the stuff that's in the stores that's got baking powder and baking soda. Buy yeast bread or make it yourself. It's easy. And just keep in mind that if you're eating a balanced diet of different colors of fruits and vegetables and beans and nuts, and you're not over-consuming certain things, and you're not getting excess amounts of sugar and salt, and you're paying attention to what your body is telling you, then you're going to get better. You're going to lose weight. It may take time. You may have to get some exercising in. But even just walking, if you're out of shape, the best thing to do is either swim or walk. So stay away from the center of the store. because most of the stuff in the center of the store is going to kill you. Be very careful about energy drinks. Do not drink them on a regular basis. Drink them only when you need them, because you will become addicted to the caffeine that most of them have. And some of the products out there that are energy drinks can actually damage your heart permanently, making it impossible for you to consume caffeine. And in the worst case, if you do it enough, will damage your kidneys, which means you'll be on dialysis for the rest of your life, which, trust me, dialysis is not a fun thing. Especially if you get somebody who does not know how to put the needle into your vein correctly. And then you have this massive amount of pain and a bruise that lasts for weeks. I know, because my wife went through that as she was being treated for cancer. So again, protest when you see candy and junk food and fast food in schools and in medical establishments of any kind. If they're serving up sugar candy, tell them, no, this should be sugar-free. You know better. Shame on you. If you continue to do this, I'm going to embarrass you publicly. I mean, when I go to urgent cares and I see that, I say something to them. I say, you guys realize this stuff is bad. Yeah, but... No buts. Fight for your health. Fight for the health of America. Because you know who's making money off of your illness? It's all the people who have the money to invest in those companies that are willing to sacrifice your health to make more money. Yeah. And it pisses me off. It makes me so upset that this is happening. In the land of the free and the home of the brave, where you are trapped because industries get away with paying large salaries to people who are willing to lie for a salary that's actually pretty small. I mean, Nina Teicholz, she's getting 100 and something per year, 100 something thousand per year from the beef industry to lie that beef is great for you, when there's ample, massive amounts of research that demonstrates that beef is not great for you. And the list just goes on and on. She's just an easy target. She's low-hanging fruit. There are so many of them. If you don't know how to research this stuff, that's okay. I don't blame you. The educational system has failed you because it has been designed to fail you. It was never intended that the educational system of America, the public schools and even many of the private schools, were never designed to make you emancipated, to make you able to choose, do I want to be an employee? Do I want to be an entrepreneur? Do I want to be a business owner? Do I want to be an investor? Their goal is to turn you into an employee. And the rich fully support that. Now, I'm not saying all rich people. But there have been initiatives, like in Texas many years ago, there was an initiative where they were going to revise the educational system to make it better. And business people fought back with the excuse of, we won't have enough employees to do the jobs for us. Wah. Consider this also. With AI getting better and better and better, and robots getting better and better and better, many of us are going to be out of a job in the near future. And that means what? Do you think the rich people are going to say, oh, you poor people, we took away your jobs by investing in technology. We'll take like 1% of you that are smart enough and educated enough, and you guys can maintain all these electronic systems and stuff. But the rest of you, we'll send you some money for free. Yeah, well, the system can only support so much welfare before it collapses. So what's going to happen? Is it going to be a dystopian future where everyone is struggling and miserable? Oh, wait, that's where we are already. Yeah. The middle class has almost disappeared, which is really stupid on the part of the rich, because the middle class acts as a buffer to keep problems from becoming too severe in the country. But when the rich get greedy enough that they destroy the middle class, they take away the buffer that's protecting them from the people who are really, really miserable in the lower class. Because now everybody's in the lower class. And people aren't taught how to manage their money correctly. I could go on and on and on and on and on. It's already been half an hour. I'm going to stop now. Fight for your health. Eat right. Teach your children to eat right. If you don't know how, learn how to do it. Now, Michael Pollan made a very good point. Eat in moderation and mostly plants and whole foods, which is to say, instead of juicing, you eat the whole fruit, whether it's whole or put it in a blender. You eat the whole thing, don't juice. Juice is stupid. Juice is like sugar water with some vitamins and minerals added. So you're basically drinking soda. Avoid processed foods. Avoid fast food. Avoid junk food. It's not a treat. It is poison. Thank you very much for watching. To your health, to your children's health, and a better America and a better world. Have a great day.